this next scene, I had to jot down some of the dialogue because the women are in the sharing shack and they're dealing with the fact that Shauna told Jeff everything.
Mhm.
Well, how did you feel about the scene?
Well, I laughed a couple times just because I was just like, Shauna, what are you gonna do here? Because you have dug this hole. You're way down in the hole, and it was really funny. My thought was, oh, how the how the turntables, oh, how the tables have turned.
That used to actually be my ringtone, by the way. How the turntables.
Yeah. With but with Shauna, like in the last episode, and the whole beating of Lottie and all of this, this come to Jesus moment essentially. But then in turn, one episode later, oh, it turns out actually Shauna, now she's the person keeping all the secrets, and she's the one that really deserves the ass whooping now, honestly. And
Yeah.
like, she dealt it, but now, is she willing to take it when she's really like, it's like Ty said, I think she said, you've been lying to us and you put us in danger, and you've been taking advantage of us. And it's very true. And like the whole thing with the money, and like with Natalie, and going back to like how um
You
like
owe
you
her,
were
poor
saying that,
Shauna.
yeah, well, but how you were saying like that Nat is very vulnerable, and also in that scene in season 1 with the whole blackmail scene, essentially Ty and Shauna, when they're sitting there talking, and Ty's like, well, who does Nat have? She doesn't have anyone. We have, our spouses, we have our families. Nat doesn't have anyone. And so I felt like that was, kind of present in this scene. And then also the idea that like, yeah, Nat doesn't have anyone, and Shauna still took from her, and she didn't tell, and she was dishonest, and so that's pretty messed up. It is. And the fact that, okay, so then Shauna, she does break down, she opens up, and she's like, okay, yeah, this is what happened. And Nat, bless her heart, she stands up and she's like, well, thank you for sharing, Shauna. And she's like very like forgiving. Like she's pissed when she first finds out, but then after like Shauna opens up and like actually expresses some of her stuff, like Nat really wants to talk it out. She really wants to talk about what happened, about their feelings, everything they've, kept bottled up. She was kept bringing that up. What do you guys remember? What happened out there? We need to talk about this. And everyone kind of keeps shooting her down about it. Um, so, and even Lottie does in this scene. And that's what's really crazy is like Nat's been learning so much from Lottie over these last few episodes, and really trying to take her advice to heart, which is something different than has ever happened in any of her other treatments. She's never been open to that. And when she finally becomes open and receptive and starts to learn and starts to teach from that, all of a sudden Lottie's like, nope, this isn't gonna work. We're gonna have to just we gotta, it wants blood. That's that.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
kind of interesting.
I I saw some comments. I was kind of surprised by some of the responses that I saw online about this episode.
Mhm.
People felt like the ending, with them pulling the cards and everything, was a little rushed and contrived. I didn't agree with that. I thought this was contrived. I felt like the scene was very contrived. I was not
Yeah.
digging it at all. I mean, it just okay, so this is how the dialogue went. Um, so they sit down, and right now, all they know is that Shauna told Jeff everything. She told Jeff that she was having an affair, and she told him that about Adam, and she told him that like she killed him and everything. So, um, Ty says, "We all need things we can't have, Shauna." And I love this. Van gives her a very loaded glance here.
Mhm.
um, And then Shauna says, "Is that what you were telling yourself when this happened? How did you two find each other again anyway?" And Van says, "That was easy. Ty just hitched a ride on an 18-wheeler to my place. Totally normal." Uh, and one of them says, "I thought you said you had lost touch, that you didn't even know where she lived." And Ty says, "It's hard not to find that. It's not that hard to find that kind of thing out these days." Misty says, "Yeah, I've had Van's address for years. You could have just asked me instead of outsourcing. Would have been so much cheaper." Someone says, "Hold on, what do you mean outsourcing?" And Misty says, "You want to tell them, or okay, I guess I will. Ty is the one who hired Jessica Roberts to look into all of us." Ty says, "I hired her for Oppo research. That's it." Shauna says, "You paid somebody to dig into our past. Are you fucking kidding? Have you forgotten what she could have found out?" Um, Ty says, I needed to know you weren't going to talk if someone made the right offer. And fuck Shauna, it's not like you couldn't use the money. I mean, Natalie is a fucking drug addict. I just needed to know that I could trust you guys. Um, and Someone says, "Trust us?" Oh, the irony. Seriously, what if she decides to go rogue? Misty says, "Oh, we don't have to worry about that. And because I took care of it like I always do." Like, they're really jumping around here. um,
Well, it's
and
like Shauna says something like, um, "Oh, well, I'm not the only person that has secrets to expose or whatever." And like we see that with Ty, like Ty's pissed and she's like, kind of throwing shade at Shauna. She's like, "You guys are broke," yada yada.
yeah,
And but Ty's also keeping really big secrets. The whole thing with Jessica Roberts, hiring her, and oh yeah, it was just for Oppo research or what have you. But like, I don't know. There was much more to that. And that brought to mind um when Ty goes to Jessica's apartment to try and find Van's stuff, she takes the folder. She takes Jessica's folder that she has about all the Yellowjackets, where they are, all the stuff, and probably more than just what we know, about the core
mhm,
group. Who knows what other girls are out there or where they might live, or the off-grid stuff that she said. But Ty took that whole folder, and when she got into her car and she starts driving and runs out of gas, gets out and hitchhikes with the guy, she left that folder in the car. So, and I
yeah.
just think that's so like important, because whoever finds her car, or actually it's her, like her publicity, person, her whatever, um that person's car, whoever finds it, they're going to have access to all that they're going to find that and be like, "What is all of this?" So,
Well, I mean, you have to figure that somebody has found it, because I'm sure when Ty didn't come back, Bethany
mhm,
was probably like on the phone to the police or something, like, yeah, Taisa Turner just took my car and she, I can't get a hold of her. She hasn't returned. I don't know what's going on. Um, then, they find the car and they find the folder in it. I wasn't that worried about it, because um, I felt like Jessica hadn't gotten anyone to talk, so it was probably just a bunch of addresses.
mhm.
But if somebody finds it, you know, now that there's a murder investigation, they could use that
Yeah.
contact information. So now suddenly Thaisa wanted Jessica Roberts, this shady cleaner person, to try to pry information out of everybody. But now they got a bigger problem in that the cops could be knocking on people's doors trying to pry information out of
Yeah.
people, which is a lot more. They're going to be a lot more likely to spill.
Mhm. That's a really good
So,
point.
and
Yeah.
that could explain why Matt and Kevin were so like, you know, making those jumping to those conclusions, because
That's a good
somebody
point.
might have spilled.
Interesting.
Um, but Yeah, so the whole thing continues. Misty says, "What was I supposed to do? Let her go? I'd already held her captive in my basement for like a week." I love this. Van says, "Sounds like your hands were really tied." Oh wait, maybe those were her hands. Um, And she says, look, the only reason I kidnapped her in the first place was because I thought she was the blackmailer. I was trying to protect us. Little did I know that meanwhile, Shauna was being seduced by this adorable grifter whose only real intent was to get his mitts on her old journals and extort us. And the FBI has been going around asking questions about Natalie. And she's like, and they're like, the FBI, what? And she's like, okay, the FBI was me. Technically, it was my boyfriend, Walter Tattersall. We were trying to find out who kidnapped Natalie. And we knew that Randy had been staying at the same motel. So Walter impersonated an FBI agent and interrogated Randy on his boat, Walter's boat, not Randy's boat. And said it wasn't a terribly fruitful interrogation, at least not at first. He was paralyzed with fear, which is strange for an innocent man. And then he mentioned Jeff. I mean, they're best friends, so probably. No, it was more like in a worried way. Like they had done something that he was nervous about. And I didn't give it much thought at the time, but there's another person who had access to those journals the whole time. And Thaisa says, you found glitter in your bedroom closet. You assumed it was from Adam, but really it makes a lot more sense if it was from Jeff. And Natalie says, Shauna, was Jeff the one who sent the postcards? Was your fucking husband the one blackmailing us? This whole thing just seemed really contrived. Like they got to this from point A to point B way too quickly. Like, I mean, well, almost like it was practical.
Nicole at one, that was how janky. I think it was an example of how like just like the foundation of Shauna's whole thing is ready to crumble, and like the whole thing of like Misty trying to prep her for, you know, being interrogated and all those kind of things, and how she just didn't take any of it seriously was actually like to her detriment, you know. And so I think it just kind of showed, it was like another example of how you could just pull one little string from this, you know, one card from this house of cards, and the whole thing is just going to come crumbling down. So yeah. That's
I get that. I just feel like a lot of this information that's coming out, I feel like they just would have been a lot more stunned and asking way more questions about each step, that they wouldn't even get to that so fast. Like they'd be asking Ty, like, what do you think Jessica found out? Or, you know, like, I don't know. It just seems like it got there really fast.
I need a guy